Cat Tales 42. I remember my first sighting of a Himalayan cat. I was about 8 years old, and we had stopped for ice cream one Sunday afternoon. All of the shops near the ice cream parlor were closed, and it was mere chance that I happened to spot the sleeping pile of fur in one of the closed shop's windows. It slowly opened its eyes, and I marveled at the flatness of its face and the odd mix of size, fur, and lethargy. I later learned that this cat had the run of the place but tended to prefer sleeping in the window to running around. Cat sightings became an added perk to the already highly anticipated ice cream stops. When I moved into my own apartment and could choose whatever pet I wanted, it didn't take long for me to decide upon a Himalayan. Margot was better than a roommate. She listened to my troubles and asked for very little in the way of care. She loved to be held. My friends called her Liquid Kitty because she fit the shape of her container, which happened to be my arms. Her only annoying habit, sleeping on my pillow just above my head, even became endearing with time. Marg, by then, moved apartments with me a few times, never complaining. When I traveled, I frequently plunked down an additional $150 to give her the right to ride under the seat in front of me. Happy as long as she was with me, she accompanied me wherever and whenever I went. When I got married, my husband knew that merely accepting my cat was unacceptable, that she must be loved. Marg was my best little sidekick until my daughter was born, which, as it naturally would, changed the way we were. People loved to tell me old wives' tales about cats and babies, mocking me about my other, furry baby. Marg retreated into the background slowly, always remaining a respectful distance away from the baby. As time went by, the distance became larger and larger, and I saw less and less of her. One day, I realized that I hadn't seen Marg in a while. She had taken to hiding in the closet and under beds, so I didn't think much of it. A day went by, though, and I became more worried, actively searching her favorite nooks and crannies. Another day went by, and I enlisted my husband to search the attic, storage areas, everywhere. He proclaimed her missing, but I still didn't believe. I never let my cat outside. I was always very attentive to the door to protect her from her own nomadic urges, not to mention our busy street. I remembered, finally, a trip outside to take out the garbage, when I maybe, just maybe, had left the door cracked. It seemed I had forgotten to take care of my old friend in my distraction from taking care of the new love of my life. I made a few lost cat flyers, still not believing Marg was really gone, and hung them in all the obvious places. A few more days went by, and it finally hit me that my cat had run away. I was totally despondent, exhausted from taking care of a newborn, and beside myself with guilt and sadness for having neglected my loyal companion. I made a few more flyers, 800 to be exact. I put the baby in the stroller and handed them out door to door to the entire neighborhood. It rained. I took the car and continued, a little more slowly. It froze. Eventually, I accepted reality and made a trip to the animal shelter. As I filled out the lost cat form, I sadly checked none when it came to the part asking about identification and collar. The woman behind the counter said, "Put a tag on your next cat." "I'm not getting another cat." I shrieked. Then I burst into tears. I had all but given up hope. My husband and friends thought I was insane, with all the flyers and drive-arounds. After 2 weeks of bad weather, the sun came out. I put on my running clothes and shouted to my husband that I was going for a jog. Then I grabbed my tape gun and my last few flyers. One more try. After hanging the last of the flyers, I slowly headed back home, defeated. As I came up the walk, I saw her. Margot. She was sitting in the driveway, looking sad and suspicious. I approached slowly, and she hesitated for only a moment before letting me gather her up, skin and bones, and carry her inside. After that day, she was all purrs and affection, preferring to share the attention than to rough it on her own. I tried to be more attentive to her, too, and less seemed to be enough for her. Years went by, and along the way Marg took up residence in my daughter's room. I don't know another cat that would let a toddler hold her with such patience. About a year ago, we found out we would be moving to France. There were a million things to do: sell our home, sell our cars, pack up a household worth of stuff, sell and store things we didn't need, say goodbye to family and friends. To make matters more complicated, I was pregnant again. With all this to deal with, my primary worry was how to take my cat with us. I discussed the medical certificate with our vet and the procedure with the airline. Her ticket would cost as much as ours, and she would not be allowed to ride under my seat like before. My husband grumbled jokingly that we should just buy a new cat with all that money. As if there were another Margot to buy. We were down to the last week, and I discovered that the microchip I'd had implanted in Marg after the running away episode might not be sufficient identification to import her to France. I called the manufacturer in tears and begged them to rush ship a new one. I went to the FDA with my paperwork. It was incomplete without the new chip information. Back to the vet, back to the FDA. I hoped that it would be enough to secure her entry into the country. I wondered if I was putting my cat, and certainly, my family, through too much. We were moving a family of 4, and I was running around all over the city with paperwork for my cat. One day my daughter asked me if Margot was coming with us. I mumbled yes, hoping it was true. Then she said something that struck a nerve: in a family, nobody gets left behind. She was right, of course. The flight went well, the paperwork was sufficient, and when we arrived, my cat was waiting for us on the other side. Despite the long trip in the back of the plane, Margot looked cheerful and well cared for. Like always, she adjusted to her new surroundings quickly. Now that she is here, she continues to watch over us all. When my daughter was adjusting to the language barrier and a new preschool, Margot stood sentry by her bed at night, watching over her and ready to dry tears with a furry cuddle and a purr. She slips into my son's room at night, too, not to suck the breath of life out of him in the middle of the night, but to jump to attention should he wake. And for me, she simply waits for a call and runs to be picked up and held. As a matter of fact, she's next to me right now, and as soon as I type my last word, I will carry her upstairs with me, where she will sleep on my pillow and warm my head, like always.